Welcome back to the show. Today we are talking about how to enjoy the NBA or sports in general in a healthy way. I find that sometimes I'm able to enjoy the NBA at a distance, almost like I'm reading a book and I don't really care about the outcome. I'm just more curious to see how it plays out. Other times I find myself incredibly emotionally invested in different narratives amongst the league, which always gets me thinking, why do I care? I used to be a big fantasy football guy, so my emotional investment in the teams actually made sense because I had a financial investment. I stood to win about $200 off my coworkers or my family. Now I'm an NBA fan and I don't do any gambling or I don't do any fantasy. But then I find myself thinking about Dame Lillard's trade demand and how much of a hypocrite he is. Dame's career choices have nothing to do with me. Dame going to the Bucks has nothing to do with my life. But somehow I find myself writing a script for a YouTube video getting angry. I don't want to be angry. I want to be happy. I want to be at peace. Does this mean that I should stop watching basketball because it's having a negative effect on my emotional well-being? The answer is no, but it could mean that for somebody. We'll get into that later. For me, if I'm getting frustrated with anything that's outside of my world, that means I'm projecting something that's in my world onto it. I think this is a healthy thing, but you have to be aware of it. In one of my videos, I talked about Dame Lillard's trade demand and I called him greedy. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I was wrong. The truth is, I didn't have enough information to really know if Dame was motivated by greed when he signed that contract extension. I also don't have all the facts about his relationship with the Blazers organization. I called him greedy because I personally had a problem with his trade demand after he embraced his identity as a one-team kind of player and said he'd never join a super team. So why do I care? I'm not even a Blazers fan. It's because I identified with Dame. The approval of the Trailblazers fan base is very important to Dame Lillard. Dame took a lot of heat from the media and the fans in Portland. He's been spending the whole summer being defensive or walking back the situation that he put the Trailblazers in, which ultimately led to him going to the Bucks. He's trying to say it's not my fault, it's the organization's fault.
You should know that they the ones who chose another mission.
Or he's trying to say what I'm doing isn't actually that bad. Let me tell you why.
Please still like me?
Regardless, it's clearly very important to Dame that he doesn't want anyone in Portland to be mad at him. If Dame didn't care how the Blazers fans or the organization felt about him, he would have just said, hey, trade me to Miami. I know the fans are gonna be pissed, I don't care. I know he said I'd never join a super team, I changed my mind. Figure out a trade, that's the only place I'm going. Which I would have respected because it would have been honest. Dame would have just done Dame and that's okay. But Dame, like myself, is a people pleaser. I relate to Dame in that way, and only in that way, really. I have a hard time walking away from a situation without the other party knowing it's their fault I'm walking away. I can't just say, I don't like this anymore, I'm out. I need the other party to know you could have had a bad. So that's the reason I was nasty and I called Dame greedy, and I shouldn't have. That's not even the right word. It's because I recognized Dame's behavior in myself and it triggered me. Obviously, I came to this realization through a lot of introspection. There are far more thinly veiled examples of projection in NBA fanship. Most notably, Kevin Durant joining the Golden State Warriors. Durant was Luke Skywalker. He was the hero of the NBA. He was a humble guy. He was a great teammate. He represented a new team from a small market. He was an underdog. He was playing against LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Dwayne Wade. A lot of NBA fans wanted to watch Kevin Durant overcome something. It was the hero's journey. We'd seen Durant make it to the Western Conference Championship and even the finals. We'd seen Durant overcome so many obstacles and get really close to success. Then he left for the Golden State Warriors and the perspective on his career changed completely. There was no challenge to overcome, only an expectation that him and the Golden State Warriors would reign as kings of the NBA for a while. Almost like you're reading a book and halfway through the protagonist becomes the antagonist. The second half of the book is just reading about Darth Vader and Saruman winning NBA championships. I'm not saying KD did anything wrong. I don't judge his career choices and he doesn't judge mine. I'm just saying the narrative a lot of us NBA fans saw was a guy give up, join the dark side when it got too hard. I know, whoa, this seems like a huge attack on a guy's character. Who am I to judge someone by the very little information I know about their life? The fact is, I don't judge Kevin Durant as a person. I judge him as a figure. Sometimes professional athletes forget that they are entertainers and that competition is entertainment. These guys aren't the Harlem Globetrotters. We aren't dazzled by magic tricks. We want to watch dudes battle. We want to watch them get emotional. We want to get to know our favorite players. We want to know their story. We want to connect with them. We want to feel something. It's basically professional wrestling with less elaborate costumes and no one's acting. Sports occupy the part of the human psyche that used to be occupied by war and imperialism. Sports are a safe place to feel and compartmentalize your emotions. Being aware of that fact should keep you from losing control. I once went to a Steelers game in a Bengals jersey and I was able to connect with everyone in my row in a playfully antagonistic way. Without that rivalry, I would have never had that connection with those strangers, and it was very positive. An example of a poor compartmentalization of your emotions would be if you went to a football game with a Tom Brady jersey on, and a person in front of you judged your moral character for supporting a guy who left his wife and kid for a arguably hotter and more famous woman. If this hypothetical seems like something that might have actually happened, it did, and it was very uncomfortable. So I think the biggest way projection manifests itself in NBA culture is the LeBron versus MJ debate. It's very transparent to me when I see anyone that has a overly passionate stance on MJ being better than LeBron, not as much uplifting MJ but criticizing LeBron. It's clearly them dealing with the fact that they're aging and they're becoming less relevant to a younger generation, just like MJ. You can see as we distance ourselves from MJ's last championship and that Last Dance documentary, MJ and the Bulls become less relevant every year and sometimes misremembered. For instance, I remember watching a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar interview and someone asked him if he was the greatest of all time, and he said, "I believe I deserve to be in the conversation." Kareem was definitely understating himself. Look at his resume. Of course he deserves to be in the conversation. The only reason we're not seeing a lot of Kareem stands online having his back is because they're probably all dead. We all want to believe there is something significant about us in the period of time we got to experience. When we see a younger generation look at a period of time that they never saw as insignificant, we ourselves believe we are insignificant. That's a really scary feeling, and when it stops being scary, it becomes really depressing. So if you're a younger fan and you see some infograph calling LeBron James a bum, have some compassion and understand that the person that made that image is probably coming to terms with their own mortality. Again, understandably depressing. Ask yourself, what are your emotional triggers when it comes to sports? Do you root for a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder? Is there something about a young group of guys who like each other coming together to get the respect of their culture? Or are you rooting for guys like Harden, Westbrook, and DeRozan who are just trying to get one ring before the end of their career? Maybe you've been following these guys for a decade and you're waiting for their hard work to pay off. Maybe you've been working hard your entire life and you're still waiting for the fruits of your own labor. I think there are a lot of people who identify with players with mental illnesses, who struggle with addiction, and have toxic relationships. A lot of us don't understand the motivation behind Ja Morant's behavior, but a lot of people probably can relate, and they can explain to you what might have put Ja in a position where he's holding a gun in multiple Instagram live streams. So I'd encourage anyone to take some time and think about the way you consume NBA content and the games themselves. What are you rooting for? Who are your favorite players? What type of things happen in sports that upset you? This could be a very introspective experience for you to have. Alright, well that's the video. Be sure to tell me what you learned from thinking about the way you experience the game. If you have arguments about some of the things I said, I would definitely love to hear them. Or you just want to tell me about a dream. It doesn't really matter. It helps with getting the numbers up. So, be good to your mothers, eat a corn dog.